you wholehearted investigation, even the Ghana police or anybody else wants to do that investigation, because it is the investigation that we have all along been calling for, but which has never taken place. So if now the perpetrators themselves want an investigation, that is a good thing for all of us in the country, Ghana.
You are calling them perpetrators?
Yes. Because they perpetrated all the bad things about the election. And those things that President Mahama was talking about actually happened in every bit and detail of what President Mahama spoke about. And the evidence is so incontrovertible that yes, they land themselves in difficulties. Were we in any decent democracy? So we welcome the investigation.
I don't know what you think the investigations will unravel.
Well, there is a fact of a printing press which was engaged by Electoral Commission, having concluded its work, went behind the political parties to print more than 1 million ballot papers. Upon the tip-off, we in NDC put them red-handed, and we took video footages of all that stuff, and the Electoral Commission had to come to admit, and then we all hauled the staff to a place for distraction. And the distraction was covered by many media houses, Joy from other after the ballot papers had been printed. And we know the media house concerned. If they are arrested, I believe that whoever asked them to do the extra ballot printing will be exposed. And besides Electoral Commission, I cannot think about any other institution that will order them to print those extra ballot papers, because it was Electoral Commission concept that they executed, and after that one, the moves and the designs were destroyed, and the certificate signed that all these things have been destroyed, and yet they find another move and printed as many as 1 million ballot papers, which were subsequently intercepted. So the facts are there. I don't know why they are complaining when President Mahama speaks the truth.
Let me read a portion of what they say in response to the allegations that were made. And they are saying that the media actually saw what happened throughout the process. And they are also talking about international observers, Codeo, that when they all tabulated, they came to the same conclusions that the Electoral Commission came to. So you cannot say that they have acted in a manner that is improper. That everybody agrees with them. Everybody that has observed these elections agrees with them.
They are talking about material particulars. And that is why I'm addressing what went wrong. If in spite of admitting that all these things went wrong, anybody will give a certificate of a clean election, that is up to them and their integrity. But I'm saying that there was an election and there was a printing of more than 1 million extra ballot boxes. And there has never been any satisfactory explanation as to why the Electoral Commission is printing more than 1 million extra ballot boxes behind the scene. This is a fact that cannot be controversial, because the Electoral Commission itself came out to offer explanations. The first explanation was that it was a mistake and they were about to destroy those ballot papers. That is untenable, because whoever knows about the process of ballot printing will admit that the ballot printing does not take place behind the stakeholders. In fact, before we start the ballot printing, the electoral commission notifies all the political parties and ask them to send their agents. So agents from all political parties are sent to observe the printing process from beginning to an end. And because it is a printing printing, it is done in such a way that there is no break when the printing starts. So when we start today, at the printing house, we run 3 shifts in a 24-hour period. So first it will go 8 hours, then another set of observers or agents will come and take over from the earlier agents. Then they will run another 8 hours, and another group will come. So there is a non-stop printing activity, which is observed 24/7 until the printing is completed, binding is done, sorting is done, and dispatched right from the printing houses to the various regional capitals. All tracks to the regional capitals. The receipt of the ballot papers are also done under supervision and all that. So after the printing, the molds that were used in printing and all other extra materials will be checked, and then a certificate of destruction will be signed by all parties, and every trace of the printing activity is then destroyed before we leave the printing house. And this was done perfectly at moment. Then after the printing and certificates of destruction had been issued and we all left the place, days later we got information that there was printing ongoing there. And then when we see that printing place, we discovered that more than 1 million ballot papers had been printed, the same quality as the original ballot paper. So that was how they were caught red-handed. So they then claimed that, it's a wrong material they were about to destroy. When that was disputed, they jumped to another claim that, yes, electoral commission ordered the 1 million extra ballot papers and those that they are printing because they anticipate a runoff. And then we said, a runoff normally happens between 2 leading candidates. We are yet to run the main election. Nobody knows who the 2 leading candidates will be. And even if you think it is safe to judge that it will be NDC, NPC, fine. But there are only 3 names. Why are you printing ballot papers with 12 pictures the same way as the original ballot papers are printed? They couldn't answer. So we decided not to push this thing to the police and other things because we felt that the police, as it then was, were actually helping NPC to win the election. So it will be an exercise in futility if we pursue the case. So now, if NPC themselves, electoral commission themselves are calling for investigation, they are welcome. And we believe that with this new leadership of the police, they may do a better job. So that one, I am surprised that any person with his head properly screwed on will come out of the electoral commission and may be thinking that everybody who was involved in the discovery of this illegitimate or illicit material and those who supervise the distraction all of a sudden have forgotten about everything and have cleaned the evidence and is now calling for evidence and doubting what actually happened. This is on camera.
So you think that the matter of whether or not 1 million extra ballot papers were printed on your blind side should not be a matter of dispute at all for them to be calling for an investigation?
Not at all, unless somebody is not thinking properly.
Unless somebody is not thinking properly.
Something that is actually documented, everybody knows about it. In fact, call Jean Mensah now. They will show you the video footage of the material in the warehouse and then where it was being destroyed in flames. They will show you. It was covered fully by Jean. And others were intercepted elsewhere across the country, some in Greater Assembly Country region and all that. So I am surprised that somebody will come out and want to contradict this case.
I have heard a response from a sort of a response, and in fact, to buttress the EC's case from the New Patriotic Party's campaign manager. And he was of the opinion that, well, even if you discovered these ballot papers, some of which you said were tamprinted, they didn't find themselves in the ballot box. So it shouldn't be a matter that you should be dragging.
But we don't have any evidence of the number that was actually printed. We could only intercept what we saw. But if there was an opening where people could print, God knows how many were printed, and then we managed to get 1 million. And again, go look at the election results. There's something funny there. You realize that the voting process is said that the voter is verified live at the polling station. Is that not the case? Then after the verification, the voter is issued either the parliamentary ballot paper set. He casts the vote, comes back and takes the presidential paper, and then go to cast that vote before he leaves the polling station. So, take one or two spoiled ballots. He was said that the total ballot cast in the presidential election will roughly be equivalent to the total ballot cast in all the parliamentary elections, because they are done contemporaneously and there is only one verification for a voter. And that voter, each voter is given those two ballot papers. And we don't have any evidence of where there is a receptacle to collect the ballots of people who decide not to vote at all for parliamentary, but is only present. So if you go and take the total number of votes cast during the presidential election, it is a whooping more than 1 million over and above the total number of votes that were declared in the parliamentary election. Where would the difference come from?
The total number of votes declared in the presidential elections is 1 million more than what was declared in the
number of votes cast for all the parliamentary candidates put together. So where would the difference come from if every voter is given two ballots?
And the rejected ballots in the parliamentary elections do not account for it?
No. If you are talking about some 100,000, 50,000, then you could say that some spoiled ballots, rejected ballots, or whatever. And hoping 1 million votes. Where would the difference come from? You see, so electoral commission is opening a can of worms. And we are happy because these are the questions we wanted the head of the commission to mount the ballot, to mount the witness box, which he was protected and prevented from so doing because they were scared that the whole election will crumble. Now they are bringing it themselves.
But General, they haven't filed an official complaint to the police. They just at a press conference and say we are calling on the police. So
we are urging them to go file, or you go and file with the police.
Oh, you are ready to file it yourself?
Sure. If they don't do it, we will do it. So that the printing house is apprehended. And they will tell us how come they did what they did. Who gave them the instruction? Because see, if they were not the ones who instructed the printing house to do what they did, by now they should have issued some punishment or in the list deleted that printing house from their list of printers. But they are still there, doing work for the commission. So, I mean, it can safely be assumed that they did what they did on the instructions of the electoral commission. And so the commission is not ashamed of itself, and they rather will now call for accountability. We are ready for it. Let us go and investigate what happened.
There's a point where you said the police were actually helping the electoral commission to rig the election. Did I hear you right?
Yes.
So if the same people who helped in the process of rigging the election, including some of the things you are alleging, are the ones that you're going to report to, how do you trust that there will be any investigation that will actually put out the facts?
That was the reason why we did not report. But I did indicate quickly that the police is under a different command now. Okay, it was not Dampare who was the IGP when the election happened. So they just got a combo and to help them to rig the election. After that, Openbo is gone. And the police is under a new leadership now.
Are you saying you have faith in Dampare?
That leadership. Yes. So we can safely assume that for the benefit, we can give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, and also, I think they in their press statement. I'm just looking for what they read at the press conference.
They actually added that this is the best election.
I was going to read that to you, and this
it has been claimed as the best election. But just a moment, listen to the testimony I just want to give and judge for yourself. If you have an election where more than 1 million ballots have been printed without any extra ballots have been printed without any justifiable cause, you have another election or in the same election, you have 2 people killed during near voter registration. Now, when you look at the conscience of the electoral commission, the commission which is claiming credit, which is claiming that we should be praising them. Go look at Article 45 of our Constitution, and you'll find out the main functions of the electoral commission relating to elections. So when you give somebody work to do, you can only assess the person's performance by the objectives you set. You don't just go out there emotionally to say that, oh, we are going to praise them, they have done well because some external observer has praised them, so we should be also be praising them. So let's begin from the beginning. Article 45 states clearly the functions of electoral commission relating to them. One, that they must register every Ghanaian 18 years and above to be able to cast their vote. You heard about the complications of the registration process. Where we got to a point where the commission said that the birth certificate of Ghanaians is not evidence of their citizenship of this country. And yet, and so therefore, birth certificate could not be used as a bigger document for registration. And yet, when that birth certificate is converted into a passport, that passport is accepted. We went to court to challenge this, and that pliable court endorsed the position of the Electoral Commission. So we have a register that was not complete, even as at the time of filing of nomination. Where do you have this in any election? In fact, if the new register was not completed, the law says that the existing register is the old register. So you file nominations based on the old register, and you conduct elections based on the new register. Where does it happen? And does that talk to the quality of the election? Then, that aside, when you come to the next function of Electoral Commission, is to demarcate the country into electoral zone, constituencies and all that. That is the number 2 most important function. Since independence, or since the nation Gold Coast was created and elections were introduced somewhere in 1951 up to date, we have never had an election where a section of our population and the whole area in Ghana could not participate in selecting their representatives in Parliament. It happened under this Electoral Commission. You go to Volta region, there's a place called South, made up of Santo Kofi, Afafu, Lenubi, and all that. Quite a huge area, the size of a whole district. Because of Electoral Commission's inability to carve the nation into proper electoral zones and constituencies, this area was completely left out of the election. So as I speak now, they are not represented in Parliament. And yet the Electoral Commission wants us to believe that they have held an election that is the best in the history of this country. And before you even come to the actual election on the collation, printing of ballot papers, and all that, they're all problematic. So if we have any proper head of state up and doing, this commission would have been subjected to a massive investigative process, a whole proof of this symbolic elections, leading to punishment of the individuals involved. And yet they have the impudence to mount platforms to praise themselves about a good election. What is good about this election? An election after which, if you know you have done well, if you have signed well, and you want to be praised, you defend that work publicly. Answer all questions around the election. And convince everybody. Because a product quality is best affected to that the consumers of that product is not affected by the manufacturer. You have delivered elections. We, the consumers, are saying that your product is bad, it's horrible. And you still mounting programs and platforms preaching yourself about the quality of the product you have delivered. The consumer is supreme, and the consumer is the population of Ghana, and you say that this election was horrible. The election led to the death of at least 8 innocent Ghanaians. The first such activity since this country was created. And I heard them saying that they are not in charge of security, you cannot blame them. Ask them who is in charge of security at the polling station and the collating center, if it is not the presiding officer of the electoral commission. The presiding officer is the one whose word is final when it comes to security at any election theater. If they order that somebody is unwanted and must be moved away, the police will comply and move that person away. So you conduct elections which ends in the murder in cold blood of 8 innocent Ghanaians. Then you have the courage to speak publicly that as for you, you are not in charge of security. So when if people die, it has not affected the quality of your election. What type of what thinking is that? And I'm surprised that people like that have taught university students in this country. That is why we are where we are now. If this is the quality of lecturers we have.
So you essentially think they are playing the Agama lizard?
They are playing donkey, not Agama lizard. I have said to that, look, I just quoted a small parable. The parable of the donkey, a tiger, and the lion. You know, one fine morning, the donkey got up and started shouting that grass is blue. Grass is blue. Grass, you took it to the tiger and said, don't you see that grass is blue? And the tiger said, what is wrong with this animal? Everybody in this country knows that grass is blue. You know it's grass, and then what is wrong? Is there anything happening to him? Yet he won't stop pestering the life of the tiger. Grass is blue. I want you to accept, you agree with me that grass is blue. Then the tiger felt pressurized. So he decided that the best way to handle this issue is to summon the donkey at the chief palace. And guess who is the chief? Lion. So the two of them went to the lion's palace. And then when they asked the donkey to speak, he started shouting, "King Lion, don't you see that grass is blue? I said grass is blue. And tiger is arguing with me. Grass is blue. Am I not right?" Then King Lion said, "Well, grass is blue if you say so." And the donkey started jumping around. I have won. Grass is blue. Grass is blue. Grass is blue. And he told the tiger that you are sentenced to 3 days silence. Then the tiger was quiet for 3 days. He didn't continue the argument. After 3 days, he came to King Lion to find out why he was punished. So he asked the king, "Your Royal Majesty, what is the color of grass?" He said, "Of course it is green." He said, "But why did you punish me for saying that grass is green? And then you gave the donkey right for saying grass is blue." Then he said, "Your punishment has nothing to do with the color of grass. I punish you because you have, with all your intelligence, you are one of the most intelligent animals this country can boast of. For you to descend to the level of a donkey arguing with a donkey about a fact that is so obvious that everybody can see. That is one of the reasons why I punish you. The second reason is that why would you come and wake me up during my afternoon nap only to present such a fool arguing like an idiot for me to come and join? That is why I punish you. You have wasted my time. You have wasted your own time for arguing with an app. And so, your punishment to 3 days silence was to prevent you from continuing with that idiotic argument. So you understood and thanks in line. So now, if the mentor or Bosman Achari claim that this election, with all that happened, is still the best election. They are like donkeys arguing that grass is blue.
And you don't want to be the tiger that is contesting
No,
them.
no. So that is why. But for the fact that this attack was directed at President Mahama, I wouldn't have taken. But I would have let because this evidence is all over. I wouldn't have bothered to answer them at all. Because it is the case of a dedicated person that is believed. And there are people who don't care about the merit of the argument. What they care about is that they will be judged at the winners of the argument. And that is the type of electoral commission we have.
Let me end by just reading something to you for your response, because the what you just said about perhaps 1 million votes coming from nowhere. This is the response they gave. It says the transparency of our process makes it totally impossible for this to happen. At the polling stations prior to the start of the elections, the empty ballot boxes are opened and displayed in the presence of everyone, and thereafter they are sealed. There are serial numbers on the ballot papers for each region and constituency. This is made known to the agents before the elections. Our ballot papers also have security features, so any trace of any new material will be clearly visible. Again, at the end of the poll, the ballot cards are cross-checked against the voters who have verified and issued the ballot papers. This ensures that overvoting is detected immediately. Nationwide, we had no issue with overvoting at all our 38,622 polling stations, except in Savelugu in the parliamentary election, where there was one, and I repeat, one overvoting. The transparency of our processes from the beginning to the end makes this impossible. Ballot stuffing cannot be done. It is impossible. We call on the former president, in the interest of our democracy, to provide the evidence of the stuffing of the ballot boxes by the EC. How do you respond?
You know the fallacy about this case. You have a lion with the claw, which makes a lion a fearsome animal because if you approach, it will devour you. It will hunt you down with the claw and then eat you up. Now, if you have a lion who claws have been removed and all the canines, the teeth removed, and you put the lion there, what will be the difference between that lion and the sheep? No difference. So precisely the point we have been making, that our system was designed to be robust by the various provisions of the law and practices. The whole argument about the attitude of the Electoral Commission on NDC was that the Electoral Commission was breaching these very provisions, therefore compromising the quality of the election. Now, who is to ensure that these agents do their work, that this process is followed? It is not the agent. If you have a situation where soldiers are deployed to beat agents who are doing their lawful duties and driving them away from policing center and voting center, how do you then tell law to say that because the law is there, even if you are prevented from insisting on the law, it means the law will protect you? How can you do that? It means that somebody is not thinking well. And then number two, the verification is talking about. You know that all the money spent in the verification during this election was a total waste. We were told that the reason for changing the register was to add another step to the verification, which will make it almost complete, and that is the facial recognition.
Yes,
to the function.
yes.
Now, how do you know the number of people who have been verified? And use it to collect the ballot in the box. You know the number of people verified at the polling station because you will take the number verified on the machine onto the pin sheet. The law governing the election provides for a standard pin sheet where there is a column to enter the number of people verified by the machine and the small number who are unable to be verified by the machine, but they are verified and accepted by all constituencies by manual verification. The things that were used for this election were completely different from the things that were provided for by law. And this was discovered some 5 days to the election. So when the electoral commission was decision everybody that there will be a column where number of people verified will be stated, and then you can use that one to check the ballot, use that one to check the results at the polling station. They were actually printing things without that column. So this was discovered about 5 days or 1 week before the election. Apart that, we raised it and said that we cannot allow an illegal material to be used. When it is the same commission that passed the law and the same commission that printed the things. It did not said they accepted to do what they can within the 5 days to go and reprint all the things. They didn't. Eventually, they came out a day before the election to announce that they will do a rubber stamp so that at every polling station, they will stamp the things to provide a column for the entry of number of persons verified. At the end of the election, 50% of all the polling stations, there was no such exercise at all. Because the information was not even sent down there. So 50% of the things we gathered did not show that column. So when Bosman Atari comes out to say that about 98% of the persons who voted were, biometrically verified, where is he getting those figures from? Because they were not stated on the pin sheet. And you cannot sit in Accra here to know those who are verified anywhere. And that was why we were demanding that there could be a printout from the verification machine. So if this woman mounted the witness box, you call for a printout, and then you verify the number of persons who were biometrically verified during the election. They were prevented from mounting the box. And even if we have proceeded in getting the printout, there will still be another difficulty because once the figures for the manually verified had not also been entered, you could get the figures for the biometrically verified voters. But you need to get the number of manually verified to add before you can get the total number of people who voted at the polling station to match, to cross-check the number of ballot in the box. It never happened. So he's getting and throwing out numbers and praising himself. So that is how bad the quality of our election in 2020 was. And just to add another thing, this business of overvoting that we're talking about, that there was only one overvoting in Tabluguan, it's a palpable lie. Complete fabrication, not borne out by the evidence. Ask him. Boku, Puchiga, ask them why MPP is in court. They are in court about claims of overvoting. Ask him, anyway, the ballot paper that got lost and was received, when we went to circulate to count, was there no claim of overvoting by MPP? Ask them. And these claims of overvoting were countrywide. And they were actually planned and executed to happen at NDC stronghold. You know why? In the past, we didn't have the definition of overvoting in our law. So they did a law which came from the Attorney General's office to Parliament on behalf of the Electoral Commission. That used not to be the case because the Electoral Commission under Afarigan and Charlotte Osei had developed their own capacity where parties bring lawyers to join Electoral Commission lawyers, and all our laws were drafted at the Commission because in line with the Commission's independence from government. In this particular case, it was the Attorney General who drafted the CI, and without saying it to political parties, sent to Parliament. In that law, they provided a definition of overvoting, which seems to suggest that any time you count the contents of a ballot box, and the contents are more than the ballot issued, it means that there is overvoting. When in fact, that definition was problematic, and it was a trap, one of the traps they used to rig the election. You know why? In printing and binding of the ballot papers, you know, the ballot papers are bound in multiples of maybe booklets of 100, 50, 25. So what they did, or what we found out, was that after the ballots had been printed, we actually counted some of the leaflets. And in a booklet that is supposed to contain 100, you have time, and then the first ballot will have a serial number of 1. The last ballot will have a serial number of 100. So anybody who picks it knows that the booklet contains 100 ballots. When you counted the actual papers, we flipped them one by one. Some came up to 102, 103, 101. So you could have 2 extra ballots, 3 extra ballots, 1 extra ballot. And yet the first one begins with 1 and the last one begins with 100. So he said there's a problem with this type of funding. We have to do it again because it is going to create problems on the field with the definition of overvoting. Lo and behold, these ballots were sent to NDC stronghold. So, anytime the ballots are issued to the polling station officers, if it is 3 booklets of 100, for instance, everybody will know that 300 ballot papers were given. Now, when the voting proceeds, you pick the ballot papers one by one, issue them out to voters. You exhaust one booklet. Then you pick the next one, issue them one by one. You exhaust the second booklet. So, when you come to ballot accounting, you say that ballot issued to you were 300. And because 2 booklets have been issued, the number of people who actually voted or were actually issued with the ballot papers were 200. Now, when you open the box and you count, you have 202, and then they say overvote the next cancel. That was one of the things that the Electoral Commission combined with MPP to do during this election. So, when you go to Senate, the ballot box that was stolen by MPP youth organizer, who was given a hot space and the box received. When it was found out that one of the seals was broken, but all the other seals were there, MPP got up to claim that because their seal was broken, they will not accept the contents of the ballot. And this is the stronghold of NDC, so they can cancel. In the stronghold of NDC, when you send your youth organizer to steal the ballot box to go and destroy, you stole it, you were told, and the box received. Our some seals were there. And you who stole it was now claiming that you won't accept the content because the box had been tampered with by your youth organizer. When we said, well, we should have complained, but we have said, let us count. After the counting, it was discovered that the ballot was not tallying. And there was a difference of 1 vote. Then the MPP jumped. They're claiming there's overvoting. We have to cancel the content. There's overvoting. Let's cancel the result. And I said no. If the content of the box exceeds or appears to exceed the number of ballot issues, there are protocols you have to go through before you can conclude that there was a fraud that has been perpetrated. So let us go through all the protocols. There's a reason why there's a serial number on the ballot. So the easiest step to take is first to count the counterpoints of the ballot papers issued. If the booklet contains more than 100, it is so. If you are not able to get it, then you go and look at the serial numbers in the ballot box of the papers in the ballot box. If somebody picks something from outside and drops it in, that paper from outside will show a serial number that is completely outside the range of serial numbers that were issued at the polling station. So you take it out. You don't cancel the vote of people who have come to, who have registered, stayed in the form and voted, just because some criminal has dropped one paper inside. If that paper is possible to isolate it, that is what you should do. So let us go ahead. When we took the counterpoint of the ballot booklet, that has been existing, we realized that one booklet was actually 101. And when we check the serial numbers, a particular number has been duplicated in 2 ballot papers of the same number, identical features, stapled inside. So that's how come you have the first one, number 1, and then the last one, number 100. So it was isolation. And that's how the result was declared in favor of NDC. So there are several of these things that happen across the country. And even the one at the Sekiman, the Kene West, which was counted at Sekiman South, there was no pandemonium with police coming in to prevent us from doing the right thing, but we stood our ground. So if the electoral commission tells you that they have nothing to do with security and the deployment of safety, that is a classical evidence. You see, so when you go to Baku now, there are 5 such cases which MPP has put together, and they are in court challenging the validity of the election of our parliamentary candidates. Each of the polling stations record 1 extra ballot paper. So where is Bosman Atari taking his notes from? When he says that there was no taxes. So I can go on and on and on and on and on talking about the serious infractions about this election. And see, when you take the report of international observers, they just come to observe only a certain stage of the election. Elections are not done only on the voting day. If the ballot printing has been wrong, if the printing of pink sheets, as I indicated, were also wrong, the registration of voters wrong, you would have compromised the election even before the voting day. So if somebody comes to observe voting day, what happens to voting day, and write something about it, then you are jumping like a donkey who claims that the grass is clean. You see? And so, they shouldn't reawaken our heads. We have decided to put these things behind us and to insist that correct things are done for the next election. So I'm surprised that their guilty conscience is still taking them to be revisiting these things, and we want the whole nation to give a verdict like a donkey that grass is blue. You know, finally, there's this claim that I went to Supreme Court to say that we have not come to contest the validity of the election. Go and check the exact statement that I made. We were asked to bring our alternative figures so that they can compare them with the electoral commission. And I said that we have not come to declare an alternative result because we are not the constitutionally mandated body to declare election results. But we have every right as a stakeholder to challenge the result that has been declared by the constitutionally mandated body. And they have to justify everything that they have done. That is why we are here. So when you go to the ruling, after preventing the electoral commission from mounting the dogs and do that defense, there was a conclusion in the verdict that if we have come to hold them accountable to their work, Supreme Court is not the proper forum, and that we should use another forum. That was it. So where from people imagining things that we have not come to contest the validity. If we are not contesting the validity of the result, why are we in court? They are saying that it is not our responsibility to declare alternative results. We say bring your results and let us check. If they are invalid, you go and bring a valid report. It is not our duty. Because you are in official custody of documents about the election. We can only use ours to try to prove a case that maybe what you have produced is wrong. But you cannot say you will not bring the official results. We should bring ours, so you will use yours to contest what we have done. You understand the argument?
Yeah.
You have a constitutionally mandated duty to perform, and you have performed it. The Ghanaians who assigned you that duty are asking you to account. And you are saying the person who is asking you to account to bring a different result. When you cannot explain the internal inconsistency of the result you want us to swallow, you yourself don't know. Go ask the Supreme Court judges. What was the result of the 2020 presidential election? They can tell you because they have 6 different sets of figures. So doesn't it lie in the mouth of Electoral Commission to tell us which of his figures actually was the result of the election? And because of the poor ruling of the Supreme Court, the nation has been the leader. Because as we speak here now, nobody knows the actual results of the 2020 election. And the reason why we did not present our thesis was that we raised the issue that in spite of the security nature of the thesis, we have intercepted several clean sheets, official Electoral Commission clean sheets doing the rounds in Ashanti region and many other regions, being held by people who are non-officials of the Electoral Commission, notably MPP agents. So, if you know that there could be multiplicity of documents, each of them can be fabricated to come and contest your claim. And we say that we are not going to bring our claim out. You tell us which things did you use to compile your results. When you yourself produce them, you cannot run away from them again. So we say bring them, and the Supreme Court says we will bring them. So now the case in Ghana is that the institution which has official custody of documents is prevented by the court to produce claims. And then we are asking a litigant who is challenging the validity of that result to go and bring official reports of their houses. That is how bad the argument of the Supreme Court was.
General, that was the last one, but just quick comments from one of our viewers on Facebook. Mm-hmm. His name is Nenny Lancaster. He says I should ask you if the NBC will adhere to using regional collation centers in the next election.
It is one of the things that was introduced unilaterally by the Attorney General who drafted the CI for Electoral Commission. When you take our electoral reform, we have made a strong recommendation for the scrapping of those regional collation centers because they contributed to the region. Then let me give you one evidence about that. You know, in Eastern region, there were 2 regional collation seats.
2?
Each of them, 2 different collation seat.
But there was one collation.
One collation. One seat was signed by all party agents, including NDC agents. And then another sheet with different figures was used in the national collation. From Eastern region to the national collation. The two were presented in court. And we wanted the electoral commission to be in the box so we consent him with those two documents. He was prevented from mounting the box. And you know the interesting thing that they saw, which they, because of which they prevented her from mounting the box. When they were asked why in the preliminary statement, why there were those two different figures, these different collation sheets, they said that the first one, which was signed to by all the agents, was prepared when the results from one constituency had not been added. So after we signed and left, we got the results of that other constituency and added. And when they called us to come and sign, they did not sign. That was their explanation. It sounded very plausible. And the law allows the electoral commission to proceed with their work if the party refuses to sign. But hold on a minute. When you take the one time by our agent, which they claim was the first one, which they found faulty. The date of its receipt, really, when it is due, we actually bring the time, the exact limit, the document that received into the pool. And it will surprise you to know that the corrected version which they claim was done after the first one. Actually was sent to Accra before the one that has been properly signed, that is supposed to be corrected came later. And the difference was more than 6 hours. So it tells you that the electoral commission has some pre-prepared results, pre-programmed results which they use. And they only wanted this other one, the other one just came. So if we have not detected it, nobody will know about what happened. So the results of the election were cooked. When between the time that the voting concluded and the long interval between the conclusion of the voting and the start of the national collation, it was more than 48 hours, nothing was happening at the national collation because they claimed they were collating at the regional level. So this is how symbolic your elections were in 2020.
But they said the international observers scored them 99.5%.
I told you that international observers come in, they come in at a point, deploy people to a sample polling station, maybe 20, 30, and then they form an opinion. They don't know how voters register was prepared. They don't know how printing of ballot papers were done. They don't know how printing of cases were done. And all that. So if you are not prepared to use the testimony of we Ghanaians who are the consumers of the electoral product, and you want to hand on an observer who was standing by watching us consume that product, for that observer to say that because our faces were not clean, so the thing must take well. So their conclusion is that you have done a good job. What type of proper thinking is that?